Hello, everyone. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. The Hey Chaplain podcast brings you stories and wisdom about life in law enforcement, giving support and encouragement to those who wear the badge. Today, I want to take you to the other side of the police radio, to the communications center, to talk about dispatchers. We'll discuss what's happening during a 911 call from the point of view of a call taker and a dispatcher. We ask, what do officers sometimes not understand about the job of the person on the other side of that radio? And what is life like for that disembodied voice in the dark? Today, I'm talking to Manny DeLeon. He's a supervisor at the Emergency Communications Center in Wyandotte County, Kansas. And he agreed to talk to me about all of this and more. Listen as he talks about the process of taking a call and getting that crucial bit of information in just the nick of time. Also, listen to what he says about hiring and the challenge of keeping a communications center staffed. Finally, I ask him what he would most want to see changed in communications. Here's Manny DeLeon. Manny, it's good to have you here today. How are you?
Doing good, thank you.
Good. I'm glad we're able to talk about this. It's kind of an insight into a part of law enforcement that everyone's aware of, but they probably don't think about a lot. And so can you walk me through the process when a 911 call comes in? What's happening in the communication center from start to finish?
Okay. So there's a lot of knowledge and training involved for a dispatcher to process calls. However, all training is provided from start to finish. And just to give you an idea, it may take up to a year to train a new employee to be able to handle 911 calls and learn the dispatching phase, which is the phases of actually sending officers and other resources to these calls for service so that citizens get the help that they need. As soon as a citizen or a passerby that is within Wyandotte County dials 911, their call gets routed to our center, where a call taker will answer the phone. Their line of questioning is extremely crucial to be able to send the appropriate and necessary help. So it's very, very important that all questions are answered fully and in detail.
Okay.
For example, the most important piece of information that we can't emphasize enough is location.
And that's probably not what people are asking, or what they're saying. You're usually probably yelling,
right?
Here's the thing that's happening, but you need to know where.
Right. As soon as a call taker picks up that phone, normally it's the caller is very hysterical.
Yeah.
Probably location is not going through their mind. So it's up to our call taker to take control of the caller, calm them down, and try to get that location because it's extremely important. I always tell my staff that if there is anything that they can get out of a 911 caller, it would be location.
Right.
Once location is determined, they enter that in the system, and then they try to determine the nature of the call. So once they determine the nature, let's say it's a disturbance.
Right.
They code the call, and it's routed and displayed on the appropriate dispatcher's screen so that the officers in that area can be sent. So then the call taker still stays on the line, asking a multitude of questions, such as who was fighting with who, suspect descriptions, is anyone armed, or does anyone need EMS to check them out, etc.
So you said this goes to the appropriate, other person there in the communication center. Is that something that's happening through the computer, or somebody choosing, okay, this call needs to go to that person over?
No, it's simultaneous. It's all happening simultaneously.
Okay.
The
computer
CAD system, the software that we use, the software that we use gets the when the call taker puts in the location, the software then determines, this goes to this district in this part of Wyandotte County.
Right.
So then that call automatically gets routed to that dispatcher that's controlling those officers in that area.
Okay, so if I'm following, there's now two people involved in the call?
Yeah, so there's the call taker, and then on the other side of the room is the dispatcher for where that location is at.
Okay. All right, what happens next?
So then the line of questioning is not only to send the appropriate help to the citizen, but it's also tailored to our responding officer's safety.
Okay.
I always tell those in training to pretend that you are the responding officer and are questioning the caller pieces of information that you would want to know if you were the one driving to the scene.
Right. Right.
So obviously anyone would want to know who to look out for in this case, the suspect, and if they are a danger to that officer responding.
Okay.
So you can see why it's important to ask all these pieces of information, where oftentimes a caller might get frustrated wondering why we ask too many questions.
Right,
it's all the time. It never fails.
Yeah. The call taker is talking to the person making the 911 call, and they are talking to that person, but they're writing notes, right? They're typing in notes.
Yes. So
the dispatcher and everybody else can see what's being written in.
Yeah.
To
So
those
it's
notes,
actually all live. So as the caller is talking to my call taker, they are typing. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of multitasking involved.
Yeah.
As soon as they hit enter, when they're at the end of a sentence,
right,
it's live. So our dispatcher can right away see that call note that came in.
Okay.
And in fact, our officers can see that call for service live out in the field on their
tablet,
their mobile
tablet
devices. Yeah.
Okay.
So as soon as they pick up 911, they type in the address, they call that, they code the call for service, and then they start typing in notes. Right away, everyone down the line can see that call for service live.
Okay, these are the call notes. I've been on a ride along and been in the car and on the tablet and have looked through the notes to try to find pertinent information.
Right. So they can right away they can see the location, the nature of the call, and all the call notes coming in.
Okay. And so the dispatcher uses those notes to relay some of that information, because the officer can see it on his tablet, but mm-hmm. the dispatcher also says some of that information over the radio. Yeah,
and in fact, normally they should say all the information, because you never know what piece of information might be important to the officer.
Right.
So it's important that they just read out all of the call notes. And not only that, the officer's driving, so it's very important that...
Well, and no officer has ever been reading call notes while driving. That has never happened.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah. We would hope that they just focus on driving.
Right. So all of these callers get frustrated that the call takers keep asking more and more questions.
Well, and we always assure them that answering questions won't slow units down, as call takers and dispatchers are separate.
Right. They think that well, as soon as I can finish this call, then someone will be sent.
Exactly.
But in reality, they're already being sent.
And a lot of times we don't even have call notes. The location, the address is in the call for service, and our officer's already on the way without knowing what is going on or what they're responding to.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a question. I've been on ride-alongs with the officers as a chaplain, and I remember the very first ride-along, I heard one of the dispatchers say, there's such and such a call at such and such location. I'll show you responding. And I thought, well, how presumptuous that dispatcher's telling the officer he is going. It's like they didn't give him the choice. You know?
Yeah.
Because I think TV shows and movies, the cops are like, oh, that's an interesting call. I think I'll take that one. Uh-huh. And in reality, this officer that I was riding with was just told, you are going to this location. Right. I'll show you en route.
Yeah.
And so where does that authority come from? Is that just like written into like policies and procedures, or is there a commander over the shoulder of that dispatcher saying it's in this car, not that one?
And it's not necessarily authority. It's just the resources that we have available at the moment.
Okay.
And it's not the dispatcher trying to be authoritative. It's more so, I'll show you en route. And that's how I'm going to mark you in the system that you are on the way to that call.
And it would say that probably to whichever car is assigned to that area, presumably, right?
We try to stick to the vehicles that are available in the area. Oftentimes, everybody's tied up on calls, so we borrow units from the other end of the city, and then they have to drive.
Because the dispatcher can see it all on a map, right?
Right.
And they can see where all the cars are.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And that's another thing with callers. They think that officers are taking too long at times, but it's because our officers are tied up, and a lot of times it could be driving from our south patrol location all the way to west patrol, which is backs up to Bonner Springs. So.
Right. Yeah, it could be a 10 or 15 minute drive under normal conditions, and that officer's coming all the way across town. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Okay. So the dispatcher is sending help. The call taker is still getting more information. At what point does the call end from the point of view of those of you in the communication center? Does that call, you describe that to me, does that call stay open? Is somebody like listening in on that and staying with it for how long? I mean, how does that work?
As soon as we get all the pertinent information and we get all the information that we need to send our officers and keep our officers safe, and we know enough information that we are sending all the appropriate help to the caller, then we just tell the caller, we'll get them out there as soon as possible. Now, going back to the disturbance call when I started, say someone is hurt. So my call takers on the PD side answer all incoming 911 calls. And then it turns out that they say, oh yeah, maybe someone is cut or is bleeding. Then that call taker will transfer that caller to the fire EMS dispatchers where they would have further questioning.
Right.
And then it ends there.
Okay. So now all of this has been kind of, not from the point of view, but I definitely have been asking, like, well, what does the average citizen out there maybe not understand? Is there any part of this that the officers don't understand very well? Have you ever had a time where you've gotten feedback from the officers where they just don't realize what it is you're doing back in the communication center?
Oh, definitely, all the time. And different scenarios. For example, I would think that officers would understand that when they drive up to a scene, it's chaotic and people are yelling at each other. We are dealing with the exact same thing. And oftentimes as soon as it started, so nobody has calmed down. There's that misunderstanding that, why didn't the dispatcher get this piece of information? Well, my call taker is trying. They're trying, but a caller is just, all they're saying is, get him out here, get him out here, get him out here.
Right.
And that's all they're saying.
Right. Because you're just listening.
Exactly.
You only have one sense to work with. Yeah.
And as much as we want to try to get as much of information, because we know what information to get for our officers, but a lot of times our callers are not cooperative.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's understandable. I'm not blaming the caller.
Right.
They're at the darkest moment in time, and so it's...
Well, and that officer is under high stress because he's not sure what he or she's driving into.
Yes.
And so, everybody's stressed out, and I would guess that the average officer probably doesn't, they may know it, but they maybe don't understand the amount of stress you guys have back in the communication center.
Yeah.
The amount of chaos and confusion, and you're just really trying to reach for, that pertinent piece of information and having trouble getting to it.
Right.
And they maybe don't understand how chaotic that is.
Yeah. And it not necessarily just chaotic within the center, but then after the officers arrive on scene, it's like a moment of silence. Our dispatcher's stressed out. Our officers are okay? What's going, if it's an armed disturbance, they worry for the officers. So it's that stress of wanting to know, is everything okay? Because we don't have video, we don't see anything. They're not out there, so it's just
I have listened.
Audio.
I have listened to those kinds of calls, and I've heard an officer go out and he's on the radio, and then he's not. You wait, and you wait. Yeah. And then the dispatcher asks, are you okay?
Yeah. They ask up to 3 times, and then they have to tone them.
And typically, the officer comes back on the radio out of breath because he was running, right?
Exactly. And how is, how are we to know?
Yeah. Oh, there's no way to know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not, our dispatchers are not trying to be rude to our officers or anything. It's just, hey, we're checking up on you. We want to know you're okay. And
right. That's awesome.
Everybody's okay. That's all that matters.
So how did you get into this line of work?
How
did you get started?
Yeah, so funny you asked, because back in 2013, when I applied, I actually showed up to Human Resources wanting to apply to be an officer. However, at that time, the job postings would be taken down, and I had arrived like a day after. They pulled the police officer posting. So on my way out, I was told to look at the board of other postings, and I stumbled upon the police dispatch posting.
Just to kind of help you get your foot in the door? Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I had no clue what that was and what it entailed, as the job description doesn't really give me a clear picture of what they actually do.
Right.
So I took the risk and applied for it, hoping that I would get hired and use that as my way in the department for when an officer posting would come up again.
Right.
So I ended up getting hired, and I went through all the rigorous training and actually ended up enjoying the job. So my intentions were to make a career out of a job to help people. Reason being why I had that interest of being an officer was to help people.
Yeah.
However, after taking 911 calls and dispatching, I learned, hey, what a better way to help people than being in a temperature-controlled office setting, not being exposed to the elements.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
All while, earning very good money with great benefits and being able to work on homework and finish my school studies.
And still being part of the team.
Well, right. Yeah, absolutely. And so, and the potential to make a lot of money is there.
Yeah.
So you just have to have that drive and dedication to want to make money and help people. It's a rewarding job.
Right.
It really is.
That's fantastic. So what do you like most about it? Is there like one part of the job or one type of call or a specific task that just really, like, that's the part you specifically like?
One of the things that I really like was back then when I used to was actually dispatching and taking more 911 calls.
Before you were supervisor.
Yeah.
Right.
Was knowing that you made a difference. And you did digging for information to a call for service and knowing that you sent the proper help.
There's got to be kind of like a completing the touchdown pass sort of feeling when you get that perfect bit of information to that officer right when they needed it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So knowing that you made that little piece of information made a difference, I would say that's the most rewarding
that's fantastic.
part of the job. Yeah.
Now help me, though. I have listened to officers talk on the radio a lot. They mumble so badly. How do you understand that?
We tell them to repeat. And if we have to tell them to repeat twice, and they might get a little frustrated, but
I've heard officers, or I'm sitting next to them and I can't tell what they said. Not a clue. I'm in the same context. I know what's going on around us, and I don't know what they said. Right. And you guys repeat it back. The only way I know is because you guys repeat it back and you understood them. Right. That's like a miracle worker. I can't believe you guys can understand
after
that.
Hearing it so many times, we kind of figure out what they're trying to say. But yeah, that's one of the things that we do have to have them repeat a lot. And especially on windy days, our traffic units are out in the field and it's really windy. Too. So the microphone, there's a lot of wind background.
Yeah.
It's extremely hard to understand them.
Yeah.
And not only that, maybe it's how far they have the microphone away from
their mic technique.
Yeah, their mic technique makes a difference. And
well, there's always those officers that yell into the mic and it's just too much because it's so loud.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's others that overcompensate and they have this command presence.
Yes,
and then they pull the microphone to their mouth and they whisper.
Yeah,
it's like that's probably over adjusting a little too much.
Right. Yeah, and plus you're dealing with technology too. So not everybody's voice carries the same way. I mean, you're talking to a radio. It's getting transmitted to a tower, from the tower to the dispatch center.
Right.
Then it runs through more cables, and then it gets to the earpiece for the dispatcher. So if the earpiece is not put on correctly or whatnot, I mean, it's just there's so many factors that could manipulate the sound.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of other. There's an element. I actually was riding with an officer who had formerly been a dispatcher. And I kept hearing a sound over the radio that I couldn't identify. And to me, it sounded like tires screeching, like somebody peeling out.
Oh, we get that all the time.
Yeah. Well, I asked him, I said, what is, because I've asked other officers, they didn't know what it was. I said, what is that? He goes, oh, that's not tires. That's a ringing. That's when like the call takers are overloaded and I think, is that
the phone rings? Yeah.
Yeah, so the phone rings over with the dispatchers. And so that's their phone ringing.
Yeah. So when someone dials 911, it's that phone in the background ringing.
Yeah.
And it has that distinct noise, but over the radio it carries over as tires screeching.
It does. To me, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe it's kind of a Rorschach test or whatever. But
no, that's what we've heard.
Yeah.
That dispatcher's burning rubber.
That's funny. So tell me about some of the technology. You mentioned that a minute ago. There's a lot of computerization that's happened over the last generation, the last 20, 30 years. But there's also other technologies that have come in. I could see how this job, if you liked technology, there might be kind of a hook for you there. So what kind of technologies have been introduced or changed over the last few years?
So, yeah, at dispatch center, there's a lot of moving pieces, and it's very complicated. And I'm not a techie person by all means. We have our own IT personnel. They do a fantastic job. However, one piece of technology that stands out would have to be the enhanced 911.
Okay.
Or some people just know it as E911.
And what's that?
And so this technology now allows citizens to text to 911 for help.
Okay.
So our call takers are able to have a text conversation to send them the appropriate help. They're able to communicate back and forth. Now, interestingly enough, this technology is further changing, and we are now exploring providers with the Mid-America Regional Council to upgrade to next generation 911, so NG 911 technology.
And what will that look like?
So this technology will help call takers and dispatchers better pinpoint the location of our caller with utilizing the GPS technology that's embedded in their cell phone.
Okay.
And not only that, there might be pictures and video involved as opposed to just text messages.
Oh, wow. So like someone could FaceTime?
I'm not sure about FaceTime.
Yeah,
like I said, we're still exploring.
Right. But like a video, I just use that as shorthand for like a video chat, basically.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that they would be able to text either a video or pictures to our call taker of the scene so they can get firsthand of, if anything else, they can pick up that, this is the suspect description or...
Oh, wow. See, I'm amazed that there's people texting 911. Is that used a lot?
It isn't, and I think it's one of those things that people are not too aware of.
Okay.
But it's a very useful piece of technology because, I mean, I could see it be used in many scenarios, but say you have a hostage situation.
Yes.
Last thing you want...
Out loud.
You can't talk out loud. You don't want your phone ringing or anything.
Yep.
Or maybe there's a domestic. One of the spouses is getting beat up and they doesn't want to call 911 and say, "Hey, this is happening." Just text to 911.
Somebody texting on their phone will blend right in with modern life. No one will notice you text on your phone. And so, that's brilliant. Yeah. How about, I've been in a few different communication centers and I've seen like workstations that can be elevated up to standing level. And so the callers are not necessarily sitting the entire time. They can stand up and work, or they can sit back down. Or I've seen one where they, pushed a treadmill over to where the station was. They could literally walk on the treadmill while they are on the computers. I suppose that's probably changed a lot in recent years too.
Yeah, it does. So our center got renovated not too long ago, and there's new consoles and everything, and they're very ergonomic. So they can move the desk up and down, move their screens. It even has built-in heaters. So in the winter right now, they turn them on if they want it to be a little bit more comfortable and warm. They also have fans, and it's all adjustable to their liking.
Right.
They have reading lights. I mean, there's just so many.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's a very comfortable working environment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So now let me ask, if you had like 3 wishes, okay, a genie comes out of the lamp and you got 3 wishes, but the stipulation is you have to spend it on dispatch, on this job. Okay. What would your 3 wishes for this job be?
Well, for dispatch, I have a lot of wishes. I'm going to tell you that. So
you're limited to 3. You can only give me 3. All right.
I'll give you 3. So if I had 3 wishes, I would have to say, I wish that I had a magic wand to immediately get my center staffed and trained up. It hurts staffing. It hurts the citizens if we don't have the proper staffing to be able to answer 911 in a timely manner.
Yeah.
It hurts our dispatchers mentally.
Sure.
There's a lot of overtime involved, so they get
worn out. And,
well,
you almost feel better if there's more people in your group, just moving, doing the same thing, moving in the same direction. If you feel like you're by yourself, that's kind of demoralizing. And so, and a lot of these communication centers are like at half of ideal, staffing.
Yeah, there's several in the area that are, and it's a nationwide problem.
Yeah.
And given the job market, it's not just the dispatch centers, it's the private sector too.
Yes, so everywhere is understaffed, undermanned. But yeah, it's critical that this group, have enough warm bodies to do all the work, and that they're all trained up to be able to do the full job. Right. You said it took like a year to train somebody.
It can take up to a year to get someone fully released as a call taker and as a dispatcher. Yeah. There's just so many moving pieces, and you got to think the lives of callers are in your hand. The lives of officers are in your hand. So it's extremely important that they are fully trained up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that was one wish. Okay. Just wave a wand. Every seat's filled, right? What's your next wish?
Well, I don't know if it'll get filled up that fast, but to add to that, the second one would be, I wish that the residency requirement wasn't a thing. Just because I have lost and will continue to lose employees due to the residency requirement since they have to live within Wyandotte County.
Right.
And not only does it limit my pool of applicants, since I'm sure many spouses who might be interested in working for us would not want to uproot their children from their current school system if they live outside of Wyandotte County.
Right.
So that's one of the things that it's hard for someone to make a decision to apply if they don't want to relocate because of their schools being, or their students or their children being in certain schools.
Yeah. I know that, in the mid 20th century, I think a lot of cities made that requirement. They wanted people who served the city to live in the city. Mm-hmm. And they had several idealistic kind of notions like that.
And it makes sense.
Oh, it does. It does. But it didn't work for a lot of cities.
Yeah.
And so many of those cities have since lifted that requirement. Mm-hmm. And we're not yet one of them here in Kansas City. So.
Yeah. And that's just one of my things. I'm not doing it for anything political or anything. It's more so I'm trying. I care for my center, and I'm trying to get it staffed, and I believe that would be one of the solutions.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what's your third one?
Third one is I wish all my employees good health and positive vibes. I recognize it's a stressful and mental draining job, but it can certainly be rewarding, knowing that you helped the citizen during their darkest times, or knowing that you went home after having kept all of your officers safe. Yeah. So it matters. They matter. So
yeah. Yeah, I would love to see, I'm a chaplain with the police department, and I focus on patrol. And so there's whole sections of the department that I really don't have very much contact with, some hardly at all. And I wish there were more chaplains and other resources that were available, and there's not yet, or those resources being used elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I wish I had that for dispatch too, that you guys had more encouragement, more support, more just positive influence, because you do good work, but it's so stressful. The stress could get to you.
Yeah, it can get to them. That's for sure. But the department does a good job too. They reach out. You've got peer support. You've got other wellness programs. Right. So the resources are there. It's just a matter of actually using them.
Yeah. That sounds fantastic. Hey, thank you for coming in and talking to me about this. I am definitely going to try to get down to dispatch more often and get to know you all better.
Well, you're always welcome.
Well, I'm eager to find out more about what you're doing, and I appreciate you talking to me.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank Manny for coming in and talking about dispatchers. They are so important and so often misunderstood and unappreciated. And so I was really eager to shine a light on the good work that they do and on some of the positive aspects of their role in law enforcement. I really hope that this conversation will encourage more people to apply for these jobs so that the ones who are already doing the work can get some help and encouragement. As I record this in early 2022, almost every communication center in the country is hiring and paying good money for people who can contribute to the team. One challenge of recruiting for dispatchers is that some men have the idea that it's a job for girls, or that the only men in communications are the ones who are waiting to be police officers. While it's true historically that dispatchers were often women, there's no reason that this has to be the case. Air traffic controllers are traditionally male, and still today 75% of them are men. And that's a similar job in a lot of ways. Dispatch just needs more intelligent communicators who are willing to serve their communities. So for years, I've been listening to podcasts without giving any kind of feedback. And now that I'm doing a podcast, I realize that a 5-star review on something like Apple Podcasts actually makes a huge difference. And so if you'd like to help out the Hey Chaplain podcast, go into Apple Podcasts, find Hey Chaplain, and give me a 5-star review. Leave a couple nice words, click 5 stars. That would actually help the algorithms put me in front of more people. It would really help out the podcast, and I would really appreciate it. And of course, if you liked what you heard here, please share this episode with a cop or someone who loves a cop. On the next episode of Hey Chaplain, we discuss suicide. Listener discretion is advised.
I always tell the cops this, so if they ever pull a Porsche over, they know that Porsche door handles are hidden compartments. But I had my gun in there. Nobody knew it. And so my neighbors and a couple of my SWAT guys and my girlfriend, they were in my front yard because they knew, I told them when I get home, I'm whooping everybody's butt. And so they were expecting that guy.
Right.
And so I came home, I walked up, walked right up to my car, and they're all watching me. I pulled the gun out. I walked to about the front door area of my house, put the gun to my head, pulled the trigger, and nothing happened. It was a failed bullet.
Yeah. The views expressed here are the personal views of the host and our guests and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components. Thank you for listening today, and as always, pray for peace in our city.